All right. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank everyone for hopping on to this month's Industry 30. I'm pleased to announce our presentation today is with Kojo on a presentation for AI in construction procurement. Our speaker today is one of the founding members of Kojo, Micah Rodman. So we're really lucky to have Micah on today. Just a few housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded and will be on the chapter's website. So if you like to reference the presentation, it'll be uploaded to the chapter's website. You all do have the ability to unmute yourself and ask any questions, but I'd ask to wait till the end of the presentation before you do so. If you have any questions, just use the chat feature. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Micah. Take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Rob, and thanks so much, everyone, for making it out this morning. I know you didn't have to get in your cars and drive to this presentation, but I still really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to spend some time talking about AI and construction. And really, so before getting into the topic here, I'm just going to take a moment here to introduce myself. My name is Micah Rodman. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer here at Kojo, where I also lead product development. And Kojo is the largest materials procurement software platform in the country. And we focus on MEP contractors mostly, and the majority of our customers are actually in the electrical trade. So it's great to be here at a NECA event. And we've long been partners of Penn-Del-Jersey and NECA in general. So it's really, really good to be in touch here. And let's just jump right into it, right? We are sitting at the really an interesting moment in the transition, in an IT transition, the likes of which no one has really ever seen before. There's really, we can look to past precedents of the change that we're experiencing right now, and they'll only be so instructive as to where we're headed here in the very, very near future with all of the recent advancements in generative AI tools. And so first off, it's just, I think, important to sort of start with maybe like a very basic definition of what is and isn't AI. So the new version, things have long been called AI in the past. Um, Maybe a good new understanding of what the latest wave actually means is that it's AI that learns by itself, is it makes changes, it can make decisions, it can invert things, it can really understand context and language in a way that has never been true of these systems before. So this is the recent advances you saw out of OpenAI, their release of ChatGPT 3 in, I think it was 2020, it was in, I think, November 2022, and which led to the proliferation and creation of these other models out of Meta, out of Google, out of Anthropic that were competitive with the OpenAI models. And since then, you've seen further development of those models, those large language models. And you've even started to see applications be developed that sit on top of those models to allow users, whether they're in their personal sort of time, right, in terms of their consumer behavior, or in businesses, to utilize these models to their fullest capacity to really change the way they do work. And this has massive implications for every industry, in our opinion. And the change that these advancements in large language models are going to have on a given industry are largely contingent on the industry itself and the kinds of work and the kinds of behavior that take place in those industries today. And so within the construction industry, as we'll talk about a little bit more later on, there are particular applications of these AI models, largely as it relates to work that gets done in the office. You can put it that way. Work that gets done in the field still has important implications, but ultimately, labor is still going to be your biggest cost center. Labor is still going to be your biggest risk. And of course, you're still going to need to hire and manage a skilled labor force. Those things will consist consistently, I think, be true into the future, even as these models and applications of these models become more and more complicated. What I think will change is a lot of your office processes, and we'll talk about what that paradigm is, and the new paradigm will be here in a moment, and some of the applications specifically within construction procurement that we see coming down the road here in the next year or two. So with that, we'll dive in a little bit more into um, some of the presentation content. So first off, large language models, you heard me mention those are AI systems that are capable of understanding and generating human language by processing vast amounts of text data. That's the definition from IBM. To show you what one of these models can do, I hope that at this point, most of you on the call have had a chance to at least play around with one of these models, whether it be Google Bard or ChatGPT or Facebook. I can't remember the name of Facebook's, but in any event, these systems are out there, and I hope that you've all had a chance to play around with them. And if you have, I asked the ChatGPT to write a haiku about construction, and this is what it said: "Machines hum and rise, blueprints turn to living steel, dreams and code take flight." Or this is about the application of AI in construction. So this just gives you an example of one application. Of what these LLMs are. A far more practical application might be um, uploading one of your contracts and asking a question about it and getting a clear answer in text back to you about what about your contract or about that answers your question specifically. That might be a much more practical application. We'll talk about more of these later on. But in any event, this is a very powerful model when you think about if these AI systems can interact with us in this way, what kind of applications can they have within the context of a business? And so really, these new capabilities are changing the way businesses operate. And there are the IT paradigm shifts that happen over time. And it's kind of interesting to step back and reflect on these IT paradigm shifts because I think that by studying how things used to be and how things are now, we can maybe anticipate use cases for AI and the new paradigm shift that's happening as we speak. So this shift is really about data in a business context at a contractor and how it moves from how things used to be, which is where everything was physical, to then have things take place in software and in file structures, and soon have AI take advantage of a lot of these things. So let's talk about each paradigm one by one here. So the old paradigm was one that was physical. You had physical files, and you would have someone whose job it was to understand where all the information was in the physical files. They would find the file that you needed, take the information that you needed from that file out of the file. They would highlight it. Maybe they would use a copy machine and leave a post-it note on it, or whatever it would be. And then a user, let's call it a project manager, would review the information from the contract, and they would take action on that information. And that's the sort of end of the line here. And this is happening at a contractor probably like thousands of times a week. If you really think about it, right? This is just like standard, go to the filing cabinet, find what you need, take it out, figure out what you need to do with that information, go run with it, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So this is really like, the pre-digital way of doing business. And I think we all maybe remember a time when this was more of the way things worked. Now we're in a paradigm that's a little bit different. The files are no longer physical, they're digital. They exist on a server somewhere, probably in the cloud, maybe sometimes on-prem. And there might be a special interface that you use to interact with that file. So that's maybe that's Dropbox or something like that, where it's just a digital file structure for you and your business. Or maybe that's a system like Procore, where your contracts are, or ACC, or even Kojo is an example of this today, where information of your business is not just living in that digital format, but the user is determining actions around what they want to do with that information, also in that digital format. And they're maybe running with it and taking action in a digital format too. So again, this is the typical software or SaaS model that we live in today, where the information is digitized and digital and filed in a way that's clear and accessible. Um, and it's easy to do your work, right, without needing any physical and documentation or information, and it can all just happen on a digital interface. It's still highly user dependent, right? You're still like kind of doing all the stuff yourself. It's just way easier and time efficient to do that without getting up from your computer. And it's easy also to collaborate in these systems with other users. You can tag them in, you can send emails, and so on and so forth. This is very much so the current paradigm. Where we're headed with AI is that it's going to replace a lot of steps on top of all of this because AI can understand all of the information that's actually in the digital files that you store for your business. And so you're no longer, or a person is no longer needed to understand and review the file and then determine based on your review of the contract what actions or next steps to take. That's no longer essential. With AI, you can have some automation around the actions that you want to take outside, off of the information that you have, and it can recommend actions to the user to go ahead and take for itself, or in some cases, it might just go ahead and take those actions on behalf of the user, of course, if you give it permission to. And so when I give this presentation, I love talking about, you know, um, this is about really digitizing the physical process and the benefits that you get. That's the last change that we really had in terms of B2B IT transition. And then this one is about really removing a lot of the human steps to analyzing the information and figuring out what you want to do with it, and even taking those actions that you want to take with the information in a way that spells, we believe, huge efficiency gains for basically every business if you can figure out how to adopt these benefits well, and specifically in contractors, as I mentioned earlier, for improvements in the way that we run our offices. So in essence, the data is more usable than it ever was as a result of these systems. So I want to breeze through a brief description here of just where we see AI having good applications in the construction industry and where, maybe not so much. So again, things that are related to uniquely sort of human labor, we think are going to be hard for AI to replace. So managing your supplier relationships, making the final decisions on things. Just doing the actual building work, right? And hiring and managing skilled labor and being the laborers yourself, like yourselves. Like these are things that AI just won't replace. We live in a physical world and we're all responsible for building that physical world. And so we just don't see AI coming in and changing the way that buildings are built all that much at the end of the day. And there's a lot of creativity and safety and oversight, things that we believe will always have a role for human behavior in this process. But then there's a lot of areas where we think that are ideal for AI, like invoice entry and management, like inventory tracking, like maintenance records and monitoring them for when tools and equipment need to be serviced, catching invoice errors, cost estimation, and doing budgeting work. Maybe even a lot of the digital design and work that we're all doing more and more these days. And then material forecasting. These are things that, again, are more like office kinds of responsibilities that we see the AI really being able to do quite well here in the near future. So as a company that very much so started as a second wave kind of IT company to digitize materials procurement, we have a unique approach to AI, which is we want to stick to the mission of what we do. We want to continue to build solutions that really apply to our customer base. So listen to you and the problems that you have, and then lead, right? We see our role as a technology company to be your partner in terms of bringing in the latest and greatest of what's happening out in artificial intelligence and just in the tech world in general, and being the bridge between that world and NECA, the construction industry. So, what we do focuses on the 7 steps of the material procurement process, really starting from planning all the way through to pay. And we think that across this product process, there are great opportunities to use AI in procurement to increase your margins. And so I want to talk about 3 of those opportunities here today. So there are pricing, which is to make the best decisions on purchasing. It's in risk assessment in the procurement process, which is about reducing risks that could impact project timelines. And it's about workflow automation, so boosting productivity and doing more with less. And we're going to talk a little bit more about each of those areas and how AI can help. So the first is pricing. So you're sitting in basically every contractor we speak with, whether big or small, either in the East Coast or in the Southwest, has opportunity to take better advantage of their data around what they buy to drive better pricing agreements. Because in essence, economies of scale should lead to better special pricing agreements. And understanding the economies of scale that you have in your business is ultimately a data problem, right? And it's a specific kind of data problem. It's about having the data be structured so you can compare apples to apples, and you're not looking at 2 pieces of data that are for 2 parts, 2 different Foursquare boxes, as an example, that are in essence the same thing. And it's too hard for you when you're looking at your data to say, oh, these 2 things are the same thing. And therefore, what price did I pay for one of them versus another one of them over time, and so on. And that is a question of data structure. And so LLMs can help you structure your data. You can apply them to review data, build them out to review your data and to reduce it and dedupe it and help make it something that you can actually use to bring to vendor pricing negotiations. Once you've set that up, you can use LLMs to ask all sorts of questions about the data. You could say, hey, ChatGPT, now that you see the data around my business, what are some key opportunities for driving price efficiencies? And you can now have a conversation with a rock star data analyst about how to get better pricing. There's also a new way of analytics tools that can help you spot language on top of your, the messy data sets that you may be bringing in. And then we think procurement software can help fill this gap. So there are digital procurement solutions that can help structure this data and analyze it as part of your workflow. So, if it's intimidating to do these things on your own, there are systems out there that can help you do this, like, software partners that you could work with. Next is risk assessment. So really the risk is in what you're not checking, as we all know, right? It's in the deliveries that are late, but you forgot to check it, you didn't know it. Our human attention is only limited and there's too much to do and things fall through the cracks that you want to be checking in on to make sure that you're not going to have project delays, that if there's certain vendor risk or supplier risk that you might be missing because you're not analyzing the patterns of missed deliveries in quite the way that you would want to be analyzing. And it's sometimes hard to see the forest from the trees when you're making budget decisions. Hey, if I'm making a decision now, what impact does this have on the budget 6 months from now? It's sometimes a hard thing to see. So, we all want to be paying attention to the risks that we see, right? Every day. It's a sort of important part of being leaders of our businesses. But at the same time, we're limited by the attention that we have to pay to such things. And so this is where really this concept of AI and co-pilots, I think about co-pilots that can really be helpful here. So you can almost have AI sit on top of your contract, sit on top of your data that's coming in, and call out risks as as the system sees them, the system sees everything. It's not limited by time and attention the way that we are. And it can help flag risks for you to then take action on them. So that way you are really seeing everything. In the procurement context, we see risks around delivery schedule, and they can recommend to you to send emails, to send to suppliers, things like this. And then flags that are more likely, hey, this is likely to lead to a delay. Seems like a risky purchase, and suggest alternatives to you as a result. The last area is in workflow automation, and we say here death by 10,000 repeated tasks. And it's really here I have a question, which is how well does your overhead scale with your business, right? Um, if Are you, by growing, are you creating more office work that eats into profitability? Or as you grow and add more business, are you finding ways to lower your overhead, or keep it consistent with where it was before, um, and not bloat as a company? So this is something that we see all the time, is that, the bigger you get, the more revenue you do, the more bloated you become. I think the federal government right now is maybe like the best possible example, at the far, far, far end of the extreme, of course. But it's true in some sense of all organizations, which is the bigger they are, the more overhead and the more bloat that they take on. And so this is really where we see technology as having a really important, playing a really important role potentially, and having a big impact. Um, we think mostly as it relates to procurement, about procurement teams and AP teams, who are today responsible for, your average contractor. Procurement will create thousands of POs, and AP will deal with thousands of invoices. And again, those numbers only grow as you get bigger. So do you need proportionate amount of headcount, or can you do the same amount of work or more with less headcount? So this is this question as you're growing. Hey, it would be nice to not have to grow your office staff. Well, AI can play a role. And this is really where OCR, optical character recognition, is some of the big advancements, in the space. OCR has been around for a long time. This is like, document readers and PDF scanners and things like this. But the technology has just gotten so much better as a result of LLMs over the past, really last like year. We've seen rapid improvement here in some of these models and what they're capable of. And we see this as an incredible opportunity to remove a lot of manual process around manual data entry, around doing three-way match and invoices, that lead to your ability to do more with less. And ultimately, this is where the rise of agents will come, I think, in this space, in construction, where you'll have a digital version of a procurement person, or a digital version of a AP person or invoice specialist. And it's a little bit of a wacky concept. It's like, what do I mean by digital version? I mean, it's a piece of software that can largely operate and make decisions as if they were a person in your procurement process. Of course, this is going to take some getting used to and some comfort with the systems, that they're not going off and making rogue, crazy decisions or anything like that. But we see a world in which it's possible that in the future, you will have these like pieces of software at your company that are really supplementing work to this extent, or maybe they're just asking for approval before going out and purchasing key things that exceed a certain approval threshold for you and your business, or something to that effect. And everything else you can sort of set and forget, and watch it run. So where does this leave us, right? We're living in this time of tremendous transformation, where we think that within the next year or two, there's just going to continue to be more and more advancement in these spaces. It's only accelerating and not slowing down. So where does this leave us? Well, we think that all of your tech partners that you work with should have an AI plan, should have an AI roadmap. It's only fair to you at this point, because they're your partners in terms of figuring out how to best bring in tech into your business, and help create efficiencies for you and your business. And since AI and other advancements in this space are really the cutting edge, well, it's a lot of work to stay on top of these things and to build these systems yourselves. This is why you rely on partners, tech partners, to begin with. And so really it's important that the companies that you work with have an AI roadmap and are thinking about this stuff. We think we certainly apply that same standard to any um, software company that we use, and we work with a lot of them, that they're sort of thinking of the future and helping us transform. And so we think that that's important for our industry as well. So in a nutshell, we think AI can connect, these disjointed data sets. They can provide insights and around projects, inventory, risks in the way that we were describing. They can collect a lot of great data on trends and pricing over time. And they'll be able to actually help you make decisions here in the near future through this concept of AI agents that are going to be taking on more and more of the workload per the new data or the new IT paradigm that we're all sitting on the precipice of. And so with that, we would love to partner. We see ourselves as one of those solutions. So if you want to learn more, please reach out. We're thinking about and using AI all the time. I personally love talking with contractors about what they're seeing out there and the applications that you all see. So please just reach out to me. And a great time to do that will be tonight at the at the Simeon Foundation Automotive Museum, where we're doing the construction productivity workshop with a couple other partners out in Philly. So we're really, really excited. I'll be there myself, and I would love to discuss anything that we just mentioned here. And yeah, please feel free to register via the QR code there at the bottom, and we can follow up also with more information. And with that, we have a couple minutes for questions. Thank you all so much.
That's great, Micah. Thank you. And thanks for plugging tonight's event. We do have Tim Spino on the line from E2E, who is sponsoring and organizing this event at the Simeon Automotive Center. I did send an invite to everyone to register, so I hope to see some of you tonight. With that being said, you do have the ability to unmute yourself if anyone has any questions. So we'll just hang out for a second there.
Hey, Micah, sorry, this is Tim Spino. Thanks for the
Hey, Tim.
yeah, thanks for the plug tonight. And look forward to seeing some of you. I know it's last minute, it's this evening if this is the first you're hearing about it. But looks like we're gonna have 50 to 60 people there tonight, from contractors, MEP contractors around the Philly area. But the question I have for you is, when a contractor gets on this platform and things like that, what then do you see in your implementations is their relationship with distributors? Do distributors, do they react to it positively? Does it strengthen the relationship between the distributors, or the vice versa? If you could comment
Yeah.
on the distributor dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so for distributors, it's really about how can we send data in more and more structured and more easy to transact with formats. So oftentimes before working with a digital procurement system, information is coming in all sorts of different unstructured ways, right? It might be a picture of a pizza box, it might be a picture of something handwritten, it might be just line items over an email. And that variability is generally pretty, it takes a lot of time on the distributor side. Sometimes they'll think of themselves, certainly their inside sales reps are doing sales, but they're spending like 20% of their time doing doing order item entry. And so the more we can standardize information, the more we can, coming out of a system like ours, the more we actually can make things predictable and allow them to better utilize technology that exists on their end. And so that's the overall, yes, there's some, well, that's really the overall picture of what we're doing, sort of in the grand scheme of things, is that we are helping them just make the data more reliable that's coming into them, which produces efficiencies on their side.
Right. Thanks. I've seen the on pizza boxes before.
Yeah, no, the pizza box thing is real.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Darby. I'm with 3M Company. Do you know, is the AI, is it capable yet of doing takeoffs and actually selecting products for based on a drawing?
Um, Great question. Um, the capability is there. I don't know yet of meaning it's possible to do. I don't know yet of a um, software provider that is able to actually deliver it but the models are capable of understanding a construction drawing, taking that construction drawing information, translating it into a high level takeoff, and then taking a high level takeoff and converting that into real parts. So those things are all very possible for an AI model to do. I just don't think that a company yet has exactly cracked it to make it. Of course, there's a big difference here in this world between 80% accurate and 100% accurate, or even 95% accurate. And so I don't believe there's a company yet, to my knowledge, though I might be wrong, that's really made that workflow in a way that would be 95% accurate. But this is something that I might be missing something. Someone else on the call may know something that I don't know. In which case, like, please speak please speak.
I have a quick follow-up question for Spino. Is that Scarpello's car collection?
A little bit from Scarpello and some from Kenny McDougal.
You're funny, Darby. You are funny.
Hi, my name is Dan Fierstein. Just kind of a related follow-up question there. Have you seen applications of AI where it's able to review plans and specifications and generate like an initial scope of work for a subcontract, or something along those lines?
I have seen a couple. I can follow up with you, Dan, about them. I think I don't know how well. I haven't tested them myself. So I would, hesitate to give a recommendation, but I can point you in the right direction there.
Thanks, Micah. Great
Yeah, appreciate that.
presentation. Really appreciate your time.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Last call for questions.
But just to be clear, that is these questions are exactly the kinds of things that you should, meaning like you have a plan, now do the work of that plan and just give me the output. It's it's very much so the new IT paradigm. So it's cool to see the wheels turning from folks on the call via the questions that you're asking.
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Greg Judd. And so how does your software interface with our software? So everybody on this call, I'm certain, has some sort of accounting software that how do you get from what yours is to what my accounting people use?
Yep. We do that through a robust set of direct integrations that we have between our software and others, where I think it's like we have 16 what we call direct integrations, which generally work over APIs. So there's no import or export involved. And the data just passes between our system and your accounting system and vice versa, from your accounting system and into our system, so that there's a constant automated sync between the two platforms. So that's how we do that. It's a big part of what we do.
Right. And you have a list somewhere on your website, I'm sure, who you've been working with, and
Oh yeah, big time.
there's a million out there. So
There are a million out there. Yes. You can find that on our website.
yeah, I mean, AI seems to be real interesting. We've experimented with that read on meetings for Zoom, which is friggin' fantastic. If you've ever seen that, it's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
And you don't even have to be at the meeting, and it's just great summary. We did have a guy put a set of drawings, I think, into the chat GPT, and it generated something. I think it generated some sort of scope of work. I didn't look at it, but
Yeah. I think there's going to be a system, if it doesn't exist already, to take a drawing and do all of the work basically of estimation from soup to nuts in a way that like is 95+% accurate. And to do that, you basically need to build on top of one of these models. And it's not easy to do this work, but that's the future of where I think that's headed. yeah, if you dump it into ChatGPT, you'll get something of value probably back. But to really do the full task of estimation end to end, I mean, then build a project plan and so on and so forth on top of it. That's, I think, like what the next wave of construction software is really going to be able to do. And I think it's going to be really awesome to driving more efficiency in our office staffs.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, everyone. Well, once again, I want to thank Micah for the presentation today, and I'll be at tonight's event. So I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. This is being recorded, so if you'd like to reference this, this will be on the chapter's website. I also will be sending an email after this with a review form, so please take a minute to fill that out. And I'll also provide Micah's contact information for anyone with questions. With
Great.
that being said, thank you everybody for joining us this morning, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Micah. Thanks, Rob.